Okay, so welcome back, everybody. The big announcement that I want to make is we've got 6 weeks left of class. This project is due on the 23rd, and that will leave one, two. It's only 3 weeks after that until the end. So you guys are going to be working on two projects at the end. And project, we'll call it 5. The sequential art, that's a big project. It's 4 compositions, a minimum of 4 compositions, in addition to another project that you would like to do. So please be mindful of your time, budget accordingly. These do not have to be big projects. In fact, they probably be kind of small, but I do want one more project in there. And this project is up to you. I've been talking about this since week 1. This is your chance to pick something that you want to do. And as long as it kind of fits under that very big umbrella of digital illustration, I'll probably approve it. But I need those submissions in by next Monday. And it can really just be an email. That's fine. About a paragraph, just outline what it is that you want to do, explain how you're going to take care of it, what it's going to look like. I don't need process. I don't need sketches. I don't need any of that stuff. Let's just see what you got. So some of you already probably know what you're going to do. And if I'm talking to you right now, you can email me right now. If you've got an idea of like, I want to do blank, or this one project that we did, I really liked it. I kind of like to, work back into it. I don't really want to see revisions for this type of project, but something new-ish. So it's up to you. We'll see what that is. But again, the big weight as far as the grades go are going to be this project and then project 5, which is the sequential art project. Now, sequential art, let's talk a little bit about that. If you think that you know what you want to do for that, pitch it to me and you can go ahead and get started. That will follow a very similar format. Mood board sketches. There won't be any ideation. We just don't have time, unfortunately. Go ahead.
This last project can be something like another level of like a homework submission, or does it need to be like a project that we've already made did sorry.
Neither. It should be something completely brand new.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Hmm? Now, maybe you want to do another book cover. That's fine. It can be a previous project, but it's got to be a new iteration of that project. So if you wanted to do another movie poster, that's fine, but it needs to be a brand new one. I don't want to see adjustments. Adjustments, sure, should have already really been taken care of at this point. So it's going to start getting busy towards the end. There's also a Behance link that eventually will need to be taken care of. It's not worth a ton of points, but if you want to be considered for like portfolio things, it's something that you really need to take care of. We'll talk about that in like probably when this project is done. It's not difficult. And if you've already got the project done, it's actually pretty easy. And they look nice. They're formatted really slick. They look nice. It's a way to chronicle COD work, past student work on the COD Behance page. But more about that later. Let's not worry too much about that. If you've already got a project in mind of like, man, I did a really good job on that, use that one. Fine. You guys have already done a good job of documenting all your process, all that stuff. It's just taking that PDF and just inserting it into this new format. So shouldn't take long as the work is already done. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody need to take care of anything before we get started today? Outside of exercise 30, I think I got all the grades in, and there was an email how to submit exercise 30. Before we went on break, I said I wanted exercise 30 done whenever it was. Didn't realize that now that I think about it, it completely makes sense. But in the heat of the moment, I didn't realize that we did not get to the render queue, which is really how you're going to show your work. And that's the first thing I want to take care of today, or one of the first things I want to take care of today is how do you export this stuff out? Because you can't give clients and you can't give me After Effects files. It's just kind of unacceptable. You don't give clients PSDs because they might not have Photoshop. And even if they did, they probably don't have your fonts and they don't have linked files. That is very problematic for Photoshop. Well, you could double or triple that when it comes to After Effects, because After Effects, everything in After Effects, almost everything in After Effects uses linked assets. So unless you gave them like a zip folder and expected them to extract everything and then open it up, your project won't look like anything. It'll just be a bunch of missing objects. So you need to render, and that's what final output is, and that's really the driving force of what we're talking about today. That and some other nuances in After Effects. I'm sure there's going to be a whole slew of questions because every person's project is different, and every person's going to have a different question, a different scenario, and that's fine. I expect that. In thinking about over break your storyboards, I think I'm going to modify this project next semester and really make this more of an instance instead of more of a narrative. I love narratives, but I just feel like people are going to be biting off more than they can chew. In the future, I think it's just going to be more of a thing, like just do something, like make something morph, make something evolve, make something reveal, or I don't know. I'll need to like kind of tune it up over the summer, but I'm curious to see how far you guys can go with these things. It helped that we had spring break, but maybe more guidance over the break would have been helpful. So I don't know. I think as a whole, this class is pretty strong. Some of the quality has dipped off a little bit, and that's to be expected. That's just attrition. But hopefully you guys aren't running out of steam just because this project is complicated and the next one is just big. And then you've also got that little student driven project squeezed in there as well. So we'll see what happens. I'm optimistic, but I'm also realistic. So I want to make sure that everyone's still turning in good work. I don't want it to fall off at the very end. What else? So project 30, exercise 30 has not been graded, and it might not be graded for a little while. I do think we're done with exercises now. So don't think that I'm gonna be throwing a lot of those at you. It's really just work, work, work. The chats will get shorter and shorter. And I think within the next week or certainly 2 weeks, we're going to have scheduled blocks where each student, and it might even be like a Monday, Wednesday thing, each student will be here for a 15-minute block. You're free to stay the entire time, but you might have an assigned time, and that's when you need to show up. That's when you need to ask questions. That's when you need to present. And then when you're done, you're done. That way everyone can get individual attention and we can answer very specific questions and not just kind of like all over the place. So we'll see how that goes in the week to come.
This is Carmen. Quick question. Are you going to share how to render using After Effects?
Yep.
Because I did the exercises, but I have not rendered, so I
Yep.
have not submitted my work.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same thing.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's literally what I said. But I said export and not render. It's the same thing. Exporting is rendering. So yeah, that's coming up first. So yeah, that's fine. If you accidentally submitted it, you can I'll open it back up if it's closed out. Don't worry about submitting exercise 30 right now. Just don't even, it's not counting against anybody. Let's start there. Let's talk about how to export. So this is what I want to get through tonight. We'll say art of the title. That's not terribly important. It's a very, very cool link, and we will talk about it, but just let's get to what's important right now. There are 2 demo files that we're going to be working with today. Those are in the demo files. One's called Squash and Stretch, and the other one I think is called Type. We'll be using both of those today. Now, if you guys have questions about After Effects, or really just questions in general, now is definitely the time to ask.
This will be the same with the project, right?
What's that?
This will be the same with the project, right? Our animation project, the storyboard.
I'm not sure I understand, Jason. Can you rephrase that?
Like, will we be using this method of exporting like uh with our storyboard project because it's in After Effects?
Your animation project, Project 4?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm just going to, you don't have to do this. You can just follow or you can just watch. I'm just going to make a new composition. It doesn't matter. I'll make it small. Let's do 1280 by 720. Okay. All right. So we've taken a tour of the interface. We've talked about keyframes. We kind of understand the bones of how this program works. The one thing that we didn't get to, and it's very important, is how to kick this thing out so someone can actually watch it. Because unless you have After Effects and all of their source files, it means nothing. You know, it's just an After Effects file. So how do we package this for playback? And that's where your render queue or your export or whatever you want to call it, media queue, they're all the same thing. Let's make something happen. So I'm just going to make a shape. There's a star. And the star is going to do one full rotation, which is what we call a revolution. So here's my transform. I'll plot an anchor point by hitting a little stopwatch on rotation. And I'll come out to 10 seconds is a bit much. Let's do 2 seconds. A couple hotkeys that it's been a week. I can't remember if we talked about it or not. This is your work area bar along the top here. And right now, if I hit space bar or 0, it will go from 0 seconds to 10 seconds. I really want to trim this down to 2 seconds. So here's 2 seconds. I'm going to hit N as in November, and that sets the end, N as in end of the work area bar to wherever my city marker is placed. Now, that's kind of handy. That will, you know, if I hit 0 now, the playhead only goes between 0 and 2. But what's really cool about this is once you set your work area bar, you can right click on the work area bar and choose trim comp to work area. And by doing that, it just takes those other 8 seconds, chucks them out. Could you have done that through composition settings, controller command K? Absolutely. You could set your duration right here, but it's just a little bit faster that way. So that's how you set the end. N as an end. What about the beginning? That would be B as in beginning. And you can see the work area bar now clips to wherever the playhead is. I do want to keep it to 2 seconds, so I'll bring that all the way back out. But that's just a really fast way of dictating the duration of whatever it is, whatever composition. Okay, so its rotation is set to 0 degrees, 0 revolutions. That's what that first number is in front. Think about this. If I want this thing to spin 8 times, I don't want to have to calculate in my head. Well, okay, so 360 is 1 full revolution. What's 360 times 8? I have no idea. I have to get a calculator. So that first area just says, all right, this is 1 full revolution. So I'll bring my playhead out to 2 seconds and I'll plug in, say, let's really make it go crazy. Let's do 8. Hit tab. All right, let's do a quick RAM preview. Well, that's kind of giving me a headache. Let's slow that down. I'll double click on that last keyframe. That brings up its properties. 8 is a bit too much. Let's just do 2. Okay. Now let's do a RAM preview. Okay, much better. Now you might wonder, that's interesting. Why isn't the star spinning from the middle? And this is something that we briefly touched on last week before break. And we even talked about it a little bit in Photoshop, and I talked a little bit about it in regards to Illustrator. Anybody have any idea why it's spinning like this, as opposed to spinning from the center of the star? Anybody want to guess on that one?
Because the anchor point it's in the center.
That's 100% right. It is the anchor point. So if I click on this, that little target right there, that's the anchor point. So you have 5 animatable properties: anchor point, position, scale, rotation, opacity. When I teach animation, I really just focus on the 4. We don't really talk much about anchor point. However, you can animate the anchor point, but yeah, absolutely. It's spinning from this anchor point. That's why it's important when you bring assets in, and I tell you guys, always choose composition, retain layer size. Because if you just use composition, everything's, all the assets, no matter what it is, type, drawings, whatever, they're going to have the anchor point in the middle of the composition, not the middle of the thing itself. Sometimes you want that. I can give you an example of a solar system. Is that the right word? Where you got the sun in the middle, and then you got Mercury, Venus, Earth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you want them all to spin around the sun. Well, if you build it right, all the anchor points will be in the center of the sun. And then when you animate, everything will kind of drift around that. That's one of the only scenarios I can give you, by the way. Outside of that, you usually want the anchor point in the center of the object. Now, it's easy to move. I could grab, what's cool about this is you've got this, what's called a pan behind. It's not a great name for what this tool is, but this tool lets you move the anchor point. And I can move it right to the center of the star. And now if I do a RAM preview, that's the difference. But yeah, knowing what that thing is, how it works in relation to, and it would be the same thing with position or scale. Like if I scale, it won't scale from the center of the object. It would scale from the anchor point. So you can create some pretty cool effects that way, but usually you want it in the middle of the asset itself. Okay, so here's the animation. Star twirls. Woo, we're done. I'd like someone to see this. I'd like to put it on the web. I'd like to send it to my friends, whatever. How do I do that? This is where you have to add it to the render queue. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to composition, add to render queue. Now, I want you guys paying attention. Take screenshots if you have to, or rewatch the chat. I'm going to give you some values. Use these values. Do not deviate from these. In the future, if you want to experiment or if you want to nerd out and email me, like, what is a Cinepack, or what is a, I can't even think of some of the other codecs, but I'm going to give you some values, and just for right now, pretend this is gospel. Do not do anything else. So we're going to add to the render queue. Your timeline is going to change a little bit. Your timeline now has a render queue. Maybe by default, you've already got a render queue. Fine. It'll add it to it. So its name is whatever the composition's name was. So if I named this star, it would be called star. If I named it whatever, it would be called whatever. You can rename it also, but it's going to adopt that name. You've got 3 options to choose from here: render settings, output module, and output 2. Don't worry about log. That's irrelevant. Render settings. Let's just kind of start from the top and work our way down. We can twirl this down, and we have all of the information on what this thing looks like. Now, these drop downs are, stop. I'm going to click on this. If you click on the word, so best settings or H.264 or output 2, it will bring up the render settings dialog box. I like this a little bit more. It's just easier for me to read. Quality, best, leave it at best. Resolution, full, leave it at full. Size is going to be the size of your composition, leave it. Disk cache, don't worry about it. Everything else, don't worry about. Chances are this is already going to be good to go, but double check, make sure that best, full are correct, and then you can just choose OK. You could change some stuff around here. Let's say that I just want to send a client a time signature. It doesn't have to be great quality. I just want them to see, like, this is what is happening here. We'll drop the settings down to draft or 50% or something like that. File size gets a lot smaller. Quality gets a lot crappier, but it's smaller. We're going to want to see full quality. So Under custom or under settings here, just make sure best and full, and you should be good. Okay. Output module. This is important. We're going to click on this. Okay. Format. You got some to choose from, and depending on how much you've been using video editing software, you might have even more than me. There are a lot here. Some you may recognize. Like I would assume most people have heard of a QuickTime Movie. A lot of you have heard of a Wave. Some of you might have experimented with AVIs before, MP3s, things like that. All of these have their reason to be here. The only one you need to know of, and like you don't even have to consider it, just understand this. The only one you need to know is H.264. Now, one or two of you might not have the H.264 codec. I want you to find out today if you don't, because we need a workaround. There are workarounds. You can install 264, but this is the codec you want, which brings me to the word codec. Codec is, I guess, an acronym, or it's a shortened way of saying compression, decompression. It takes, it's just like a JPEG or a PNG or a PSD. It's a file type. And what a codec does is it crushes everything down to make it playback ready. Some of these will be lossless, which means they're very big files, but they're like 100% quality. A 264 is a lossy file, meaning that it does chuck out information, but it does so in a really clever way where it retains an incredible amount of quality and keeps the file size reasonably low. It has been the go-to codec for many, many years. At some point, I'm sure it'll get usurped by something else, but as it stands, there's very few codecs that give you this much bang for the buck. Guys, yeah. If I'm going to close out the chat because I need as much real estate as I've got, but if you want to say something, feel free to unmute. Otherwise, I'll come back to the chat pod when I can. But yes, it's like an optimized anything, but it really gets your file size at a manageable size, meaning that you can play it back over the web, and it still looks pretty good. So God bless the engineers that figured this one out, a lot smarter than I am. So 264 is what you want. Everything else should be okay. Don't worry about any post-render action, forget it. Channels, RGB, millions of colors, pre-multiplied, matted. This would be stuff if you were doing composites. So if you're going to take video, let's say that we're doing a special effect for the new Marvel movie, and we want Thor in front of the sun or something like that. So maybe we shot footage of Chris Hemsworth on a green screen. They would take it into After Effects. They would dump out the green screen frame by frame by frame by frame. Then you might start to choose different mats, and you might choose millions of plus colors, which we don't even have the option with 264. But some of these other codecs do have those. So extremely big files that big chunky computers in Hollywood can handle. But that's for a different day. That's a different class altogether. 264, perfect. Everything else looks pretty good. If you have sound, which some of you may, you can fart around with the audio options. If you think that that's something that you need, let me know. We'll talk about it individually. I'll just leave the sound alone because there is no sound, and choose OK. So the big thing here is H.264. Lastly, this is pretty simple. Where's it going? It's not specified. So where do I want to put this thing? I'll put it to the downloads, and I will call it star. All right, it's ready to go. All you gotta do is hit render. Now this is a pretty small file. It should only take a second. You'll see a work area bar go. There it was. Let's take a look. That's what you'll submit. It's an MP4 is what it is. You'll submit that MP4. So this thing is 613 kilobytes. Now, granted, it's 2 seconds long, not much is going on. Yours will be bigger. That's totally fine. But that's how you render. Any questions on that? Oops. Now, I feel like, go ahead. I sound like somebody was about to say something.
This is for our assignment, right? Or exercise we had to do.
Exercises, assignment, anything in After Effects, that's what you got to do. So if you've already finished the exercise and you want to render those things out, that's how you do it.
So you want us to submit it as MP4, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. MP4. Do not give me an After Effects file.
Yeah, because I submit it as After Effects file. so-
I understand. I completely understand why, but that's not gonna. I can't even open it. I mean, I can open it, but there's not gonna be anything there. I can show you what it looks like. It looks like something from the Matrix. Like it looks like a string of numbers, or it looks like color bars from old television signal. That's After Effects' placeholders say, I can't find the file that you're talking about. So that's it, guys. That is After Effects 101. You know just enough to be dangerous, to get projects in, and we'll talk a little bit more about some nuances today, but now. But I do want to make sure that everyone understands that render queue. Everyone, I mean, I don't want to like inflate it to make it like more intimidating than it is. It's not. It's actually pretty easy, but you do need those values. If you give me a oddball file, I mean, I might not be able to open it. Some things only work on a Mac, some things only work on a PC. Some things will be a image sequence. It'll be just a bunch of JPEGs, a bunch of Targas. Some will just be sounds. Like an MP3 doesn't even have video. So make sure that it's a H.264, aka MP4, and you should be good. All right, let me show you the two files that we're going to work with tonight. They are in our demo files, squash and stretch, and type. I'm going to start with the squash and stretch. This is a bit more involved. I told you it was coming. This is a very typical first exercise for animators, but we usually do it with hand-drawn animation, where we literally will draw a ball over and over and over and over again. And then when the ball hits the ground, it compresses. And then when it leaves, it expands. We're going to let After Effects do all that stuff for us. What we're going to focus on is really just kind of keyframing. And then as we're putting this thing together, we'll talk a little bit more about things that you can do with After Effects, ways to leverage After Effects to create different types of effects for whatever project it is, because it really can do a lot. I said it before and I mean it. This is Photoshop for video is what it is. So we'll start with the squash and stretch. I'll go ahead and open it. We'll go to new composition. Actually, go to file. No, I don't even think we need to do that. We could probably just import this as is. I think that might be the best way. So I'll give you guys a second. Go ahead and open up After Effects, get through the welcome screen, and you'll have to create a new project. That's fine. It doesn't matter what size it is, because the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to import the file that you've downloaded, the squash and stretch, and we'll import it as a composition, retain layer size, and then we'll just use that composition as our jumping off point.
I have a question.
Okay.
I mean, I could do that. I just want to know if you have like a recommendation for a website like Unsplash, but for videos, royalty free.
Yeah. Most.
I don't know if there's like the best one or just we just look up for videos.
Yeah. Think about videos, generally speaking, they cost money. What I've done in the past is I've used video blocks and I paid, like, how does it work? You give them the credit card information, they charge, let's say it's $5, and you get as many downloads as you can grab in 30 days before your trial runs out. And then like I'll sign up for it, I'll cancel it immediately, and for 30 days, I'll just grab as many videos as I can. That's Video Blocks. And there's another site that does something similar. What is it? Video Blocks. It's not Pexels. I don't know. It's not coming to me right now. But there's very few free videos out there. I'm not saying that they don't exist, they do, but the quality might be kind of hairy.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I think still images, a lot of people, I mean, especially with cameras now on your phone, like it's pretty easy to find that type of stuff. Videos, people are still kind of like, yeah, you know, if I'm going to shoot this video, I want some money for it. So I can't think of any right off the top of my head. You could try Unsplash. Maybe Unsplash has videos. I don't know. Pexels might be.
I tried. It's probably they're not free.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
I was looking for the video blocks, and now it's the story blocks.
Story blocks, yeah, it is story blocks. That's weird. Like these sites change names. I don't really understand why. Let's do free stock videos. See what comes up. I've never heard of Pond 5, story blocks. Adobe, maybe. Okay, Pexels, Adobe stocks. I've been to Pixabay. I don't know. Free Pick, maybe. I don't know what this is. Don't know what this is. Canva, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Envato. My colleague at work has an Envato account. So, but again, guys, this is going to be something where if there's something that you really like, there's a good chance you're going to have to pay for it. So I don't want anybody in here to have to pay for anything outside of, you know, your lab fees. If you really, really want it, I can't stop you from paying for it. But yeah, most of this stuff does cost money.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask because
Yeah,
I had like a resource more like I don't know, right?
yeah.
Or I don't know, you know.
I'm sure that there's stuff, you know, like the Library of Congress has a bunch of public domain stuff. They probably have video too. I'm totally speaking off the cuff here. Do not hold me to any of this stuff, but they've got free images. I would assume there's some free video. It's probably a bunch of like stock, you know, flags flowing in the wind and jets flying overhead, patriotic stuff. I don't know. You know, maybe they got wildlife fires. Who knows? Or maybe they don't have any of it. I really don't know. But I don't use a ton of stock video. Like I said, I'll drop the $5, the $10, and just grab everything that I can. I got a folder. It's probably on a jump drive. I don't know if it's let's see if I got it here. I don't know if I transferred it over to my D drive or not. Stock footage. Yeah, okay, so here it is. Yeah, it's just a bunch of this stuff. I did an okay job at first of like sorting it out by images, audio, video. Let's see what's in the video. All right. So in the event that I ever need a mannequin head with headphones on turning, I got it. Why did I take this? I think I was doing a time remapping demo, but like I have no reason to use that. One thing that is kind of handy is, let's see if I can this stuff. Like bokeh effects that move. This stuff is kind of usable, and you just use it as movable texture. I can show you how this works, but it'll probably be more on Wednesday when we talk about blend modes. Because just like Photoshop, like I said, Photoshop for video, you've got blend modes. So you can drop this stuff on top, change the blend mode to screen or overlay. Looks kind of cool sometimes. But yeah, I've got a folder of just this type of stuff. Now, if I was working with a client and they needed something specific, I would roll that into the bill. You know, I'm not gonna go out and shoot Yosemite National Park, but if they need it, I'll be like, okay, well, the clip that you want is $35. You cool with it? Yes, no, maybe so. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, film grain, trying to make something look like old and distressed. That's a bit much. This actually isn't very usable. That's the same one. Dirty film, cracked, scratchy film effects. That never goes out of style. Like there's always kind of a need for that on a lot of different projects. Like this isn't bad. You probably can't see this very well, but it's just a bunch of like little white lines and like little dirt and pops and ticks and stuff like that. But you take this and you set the blend mode to screen where you just see the white on top of your, you know, found horror footage or whatever. I did a commercial for a haunted house one time. I used something just like this. It's pretty easy. All right, so let's jump back and I'm going to go to File, Import, File. We're going to be doing the squash and stretch. Make sure I do not bring this in as footage. It needs to be a composition, retain layer size. Choose import. It always gives you the chance to say, you sure you want that? Or do you want it the other way? So here I can double check and be like, yes, I do want comp retain layer size and choose OK. All right, so it brought 2 more books into my library. The book that I want to read right now is this composition that's called Squash and Stretch. So if I double click this, it's going to open a new composition called Squash and Stretch. It'll update the timeline, and then any files that were present in, I created this in Photoshop, any layers that were present in Photoshop should appear as layers in my timeline. So let's double check and see if that worked. All right, so here we go. So we're gonna make a little Pong game here. So we got 2 little paddles. We'll move those up and down. But the big thing is that ball. I want to see that ball react. I want to see that ball bounce. And I want to see it squash, stretch, move, squash, stretch, move, and so forth. Okay, the game over. We may get to today. It might get carried into Wednesday. We're gonna have that blink when the ball goes wherever it needs to go. But we're going to do something that's called toggle hold keyframes for that. So we'll get to that momentarily. I'm just going to turn the visibility so it's not in the way. All right. I did a good job of labeling the layers. We've got ball, right paddle, left paddle, and the border. If you want to know what each one of these are, you can just hit the visibility. All right, so that's the border. Left paddle, right paddle, and you better believe the ball is a little circle in the middle. Let's review. Let's talk about how to set some keyframes. Let's take a look at the chat before we get into this. Yeah, this is being recorded. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the ball probably to the left-hand side. How do I do that? Well, I could do it in the ball's property here. I could twirl down the ball, twirl down, transform, and then click, hold, and drag the position until I got it about right. That would totally work. I'm more of a visual person, so I like to just click, hold, and drag. So that's where the move tool comes in handy, your little selection tool. And I'm just going to literally click, hold, and drag and move it to right here. This is going to be its starting point. Now, this animation is 10 seconds. I think that's a bit excessive. So if I go to Comp, Settings, Control or Command K, I'm going to bring the time signature down to maybe 5 seconds. So 0, 5. So I'm at 0, 0, 0, 0, 5, 0, 0. And choose OK. All right, this is where I want the ball to start. Let's see who has been paying attention. What do I need to do in order to tell After Effects at this time signature, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, be here and get ready because you're about to move someplace else? What do I have to do?
Position and the clock icon.
Say it one more time. I think you said it.
Press on position and then the clock icon on the left.
Yep, the little stopwatch. This is marking a keyframe. Clicking this, you'll see in the timeline that little star showed up, that little diamond. That means that there is a keyframe on its positional animatable property to say, at this time, be here. Okay, so I've recorded that. I hit stopwatch. All right, you're locked into this point. Now I'm going to move the work area bar, not the work area bar. I'm going to move the city marker here, the current time indicator, or the playhead, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same stuff. And now I need to get to someplace else. So what I want it to do is I want it to start here. I want it to hit the bottom, squash, stretch, and then hit the other paddle. So how long should it take? I'll say maybe 1 second to get from here to there. So at about halfway in between 1 second, this is set to 24 frames a second. So at about 12 frames, I want it to be right here. Again, I could click, hold, and drag and move these numbers around. That would work. But me being more of a hands-on visual person, it's a lot easier to grab that selection tool, and I'm just going to click, hold, and drag. And I want it right about there. Now, I talked about this a little bit last time. You will notice this little dot here and this little dot here, those are the keyframes. Those little spaces, those little closed squares, that means that there's a keyframe there. The dots in between are your tweens. That's your in-betweens. Now, we don't have to make tweens. After Effects is doing that for us. And to prove it, if I just scrub the timeline, boop, 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 boop. The more of those little dots that you see in between, that means the more in-betweens there are. So if you see a bunch of little dots, that means there's a lot of in-betweens. To prove it, let's do this. I'm going to take the last keyframe, where it is right here, and I'm going to move it closer to the first keyframe. Watch the amount of dots in between, if you can see them. Not as many dots. If I pull it further away, there's a lot more dots. Visually, what this is telling you is speed. The more dots that you see between two keyframes, the slower it's moving. So if I hit spacebar, kind of moving sluggish, right? Let's do that same animation, but speed it up some. Not many dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 dots. It's moving a lot faster. So if you see a positional path that has hundreds of dots, try to remember that's going to move slow. You don't have to believe me, just hit spacebar and find out. But that's just kind of a nice little visual cue to be like, oh yeah, this is going to go fast. All right, so I'm going to bring this out to that 12th frame mark. And I'm back to it. Okay. So we've got from here to here. Looks good so far. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way with it. I'm going to go out to 1 second. And I'll pull my ball. Oops, got the wrong layer. I'm going to lock down that border so I don't make that mistake. So here's the lock icon over here. Lock that down. In fact, I'm going to lock everything I'm not animating. I don't want to accidentally grab something. Make sure I've got my ball selected, and I'm going to click, hold, and drag and move it to the paddle. Now, it looks like snap is enabled, and sometimes that can be very handy. Right now, it's kind of bugging me. So I'm going to go to View, Snap to Guides, turn that off. And that's a lot better. It's not as sticky as it was before. Snap can be handy. Right now, it's kind of throwing me off. All right, let's see what the animation looks like. I'll hit N to end the work area bar. Seems like it's working. But I'm not getting any physics. You know, this is very, very robotic, which, you know, if you were thinking, well, video games are robotic, I would agree with you, especially if we're doing a Pong. But I want to make mine a little bit more believable. So if physics has taught us anything, that energy, when it's dispersed, it will, especially in something like a ball, think of like a basketball, energy dissipates and then it reconstitutes. So in this case, when something's coming down and it hits, the energy will expand outwards, hence the squash. And then as it leaves whatever it hit and it begins to accelerate upward, it begins to compress, and that's your stretch. So it looks like this. Right about here, it probably should flatten out some, or maybe the frame after it. This is going to require a new set of keyframes under a different property. This is going to be scale. So at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, I'm going to set a scale keyframe. When it gets to about right here, or maybe even one frame after, so I'm going to just hit page down. I'm going to bring the scale down. Now, here's the problem with scale. By default, scale is locked X to Y. So whatever happens on one axis will happen to the other. So I want it to shrink, say 20%. So I'll plug in 80. So here's what it looks like. Well, that doesn't look very believable at all. Like nothing really happened, in my opinion. I'll bring it up to 100 at the end. All that happened is the ball got smaller and then it got bigger. Not a very believable squash and stretch at all. So what I need to do is I need to unlock the X and the Y. It's really simple. You guys have done this type of stuff in Photoshop where you just want to transform something this way and not this way. So you unlink that little chain icon, which is right here. And you can say, all right, I want the, let's see which is which here. This 90. All right, so I want the height to stay at 100. No. This I want at 80. This I want at 100. And then I'll have to kind of reset all of these. So it goes from 100, flattens out a little bit more like a pancake, and then it gets a little bit bigger and more robust as it moves along. So let's take a look at this. It's getting there. I think you guys can kind of see what's happening. Now, as I did that, I created two problems. Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Mine didn't do that.
What?
Mine didn't do that.
So do you have those keyframes?
Wait. Oh, whoops.
Yeah, it's easy.
I forgot to make them.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't have keyframes, it won't do anything. Gotta have the keyframes. But in doing a little bit here, I've created two new problems. I'm going to get rid of these guides. They're not helping me right now. So view. Zoom in a little bit. Actually, I should be able to hit tilde. Zoom in a bit. Let's just do some RAM previews here. One's pretty obvious. The other one, maybe not so obvious. Does anybody see the problems that I'm encountering now? Anything look weird to you? I'm surprised. Usually some person notices one of them right away.
Ball squishes before it even lands.
Does. Good. The other one's a bit more minor, and maybe it's just me, but when I squished it, remember the anchor point's in the center of the ball. So if I page down, oops. Timeline back. It never really touches the bottom because when I squished it, so here was the bottom before and it touched just fine, but when I squished it, it squished from the center point out. So it's just like, almost like there's an invisible bumper down there that it reacted to. Two ways to fix that. I could just move the position down a little bit more. Actually, that's the way to do it. So grab the ball and now I'm just gonna hit the arrow keys a couple times. Now this is important. If you're going to alter something when you already have keyframes, if I'm off by just one frame, right? If I'm over here and not on the keyframe, the playhead is just one frame off, and I start to hit down, it just added a new keyframe. So while it kind of looks like it's okay, I'll take a look at what happened. I guess it happened so fast you don't really notice, but that's not right. So what I need to do is I'll delete that keyframe out. Right here, right as the playhead is sitting perfectly over that positional keyframe, now I'm going to hit the down arrow key. That's where it needs to react from. So that's one problem solved. That looks a lot better than it did before. But Jason probably found the most egregious problem, and that's, yeah, this thing's compressing before it even hits something, which is not believable at all. Anybody want to take a stab at how you fix that? It's easier than you think. So maybe don't overthink it. What would you guys do to prevent it from squashing before it hits said edge?
Fix the scaling.
You could, yeah. And I mean, that's exactly what we're gonna do. So it's not so much fixing the scaling, it's moving the keyframe around to say, all right, you're starting the scale at 100 and 100. Cool. But as it travels, it's already like right here, the scale's at 93, 86, 81. I don't want it to start doing that until it hits here. So all you got to do is take your scale keyframe. I'll zoom into my timeline a bit. Just take that scale keyframe. If you know it's not changing until here, just move that along and butt it up right next to it. So now it stays at 100, still at 100, still at 100. And as soon as it hits, bonk, goes from 100 to 80. And then maybe I'll have it deflate a little bit slower on the way back, right about here. And let's see what that looks like. And I'll even push that back just a few more frames. I'll go even further with it. I'll really squash the heck out of this thing. That way we can see it a bit more in action. See the difference?
Yes.
It's at first it's kind of subtle, and I think I overdid it. I think that's too much of a squash. So I can come back and say, all right, well, 55 is just absurd. Let's go up to 70. Let's do 70. You can see at 70, it's a bit too big. So move this up right about there. Let's see what that looks like. Not bad. The rest is just playing around with it. It's exact same physics. So it hits here. I need to make sure that it is at 100% scale, but now it's going to squash the other way. So I'm going to set a new keyframe. Now that I know it's here, I'll move it over a bit. Got the same problem I did before. It's going to start to stretch before it gets over there. Now I've run into kind of an interesting problem though. I used my 100% keyframe right here. If I move it over here right next to it, I run into this problem where it stays flat and then opens up. So it looks good right here. Doesn't look so good right here. It's a pretty easy solution, folks. Just copy and paste that keyframe. You can just rubber band select it, Control C, like you would any other copy. Make sure that you're on the scale property. If you hit Control V, it's going to paste it wherever the city marker is. On scale, hit Control V. Now let's see what it looks like. All right, it's looking good so far. So it'll go here, and I'll give it another, where are we at? 1 second. I'll come out to 2 seconds. This whole thing is 2 seconds. So this is 2 seconds right here. So from here to, I gave it about 12 frames. So here to here. Boom. And I'll do something a little bit weirder. This is where I'll do the game over. I'll have it bounce here, and then 12 more frames. A few more. All right, so let's just see what the movement looks like. It's a little bit too fast there at the end, so I'll slow that out a little bit more. That looks about right. Now I just need to play around with the scale, make sure that it's reacting to all the sides, squashing where it needs to, stretching where it needs to, and so forth. But that is your typical squash and stretch exercise. Anybody have any questions about that? Now, be mindful. It's going to happen. I understand it. But if you were to try to put another, say, scale keyframe, then you will be tempted to click the stopwatch. Watch what happens to my timeline. I'm gonna add a new keyframe right here under scale. I'm going to change the scale. Hit my scale keyframe because I want to add one. It just blew out all my keyframes. So once you click that stopwatch once, that's all you need to do. So I'll Control Z to bring those back. Don't click it again unless you want to get rid of all your keyframes. And if you do it on accident, don't panic. Just hit Control Z. We'll bring them back. Save often. After Effects should by default have an autosave built in, but if your preferences are wonky, it might not save very often. Now, to make this thing even more dynamic, I would probably animate the paddles moving up and down, bouncing the ball, having fun with it, something like that. But in a nutshell, guys, this is how you will animate objects should you choose to. Now, I think a lot of you are just going to do straight ahead drawings, which is fine, but some of you might choose to do something different. I want you guys to be aware of that's how you might do those different things. If we're good on that, we're going to open the other demo and we're going to talk about how to over animate. And then we'll watch a video and then we'll take a break. Any questions about this? All right, so let's go to File, Import, File. This one's going to be type. Comp, retain layer size, import. Yes, I was correct. I do want comp, retain layer size, and OK. Two more books showed up in my library. This composition called type. This is what I want to work with. So I'll double click it. And it brings up this. This has a problem, and it's also got a solution. If you were to open up the PSD of this, there are two folders. One is called Over Animate, and one is called Parent. The way that After Effects interprets groups, folders in Photoshop is compositions. So inside of this type composition, I have two compositions, nested compositions. One's called Over Animate, one's called Parent. These are in my type layers folder. You can see there's all my layers. So I actually got a lot of books in this. And inside of my type layers folder, I've got two more compositions. The one I want to work with is Over Animate. So by whatever means, you can either double click it here, or you can double click it in your timeline. You want to get inside of that composition because we need to see the layers. That's what we need to see. I need to see TYPE. Because what I want to show you is this trick that you might not use for this project. Some of you might never use. But if you want to know some of the secret sauce in animation, it deals with over animation. It's usually really subtle. but once you see this, you're not going to be able to unsee it. It's almost in every animation, from Olive Garden commercials to Disney animation. Like everybody uses it. And all it says is, if you want something to go someplace or grow or spin or whatever, do it in such a way, because let's do this. I'm going to have the word type start at the bottom of the composition and come to the top. I'm going to show you two different ways. Actually, I'll do it with the T and the Y. P for position. I'm going to backwards animate this. I'm going to click on the position. This is where I want them to stop. So I'm going to do a little backwards animation. I'm going to take these keyframes, move them out a few frames here. And then at the beginning, I'll click, hold, and drag and move them off the stage. All right, so right now it looks like this. Does it work? Yes. Is it pleasing to look at? No. Why? After Effects is a robot, and it works in a very robotic fashion. You tell it here, you tell it to be here at a certain time, be here at a certain time, and it will just do that. The natural world does not move like that. If I threw a ball, the ball starts coming out of my hand very fast, and as it loses inertia, it will slow down until it finally comes to its resting place, be it someone else's glove or skidding along and then just slowly running out of steam. Same thing with movement, unless it's a machine. You know, if you look at like the way an offset printing press works, like it's there's no over animation. But if you look at anything else, say a limb blowing in the wind, dust comes, blows, and then it gradually comes back, right? When you want to animate, you try to replicate the natural world in a very unnatural setting. So I'm going to over animate the Y and leave the T alone. So I'm going to turn the T off for a second. Both of them are going to come to rest here. But with the Y, what I'm going to do is I'm going to over animate its position just a little bit, not much, but just a little bit to give it this like nice little hugging into place. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to copy this keyframe, Control C, Control V. And it's going to paste right where this city marker is. And then from here, I'm actually going to move the position because it's coming up. I want it to come up, but a little bit higher than its resting place, and then have it drop back down. So from here, what I'll do is just come up a little bit, and now take a look at the difference. I just want to focus on the Y now. You see how small that is? What, like a tiny little adjustment one keyframe makes? But you'll notice that when it comes up, it seems to like drop into place. It's a much more realistic, natural movement, one that our eyes are comfortable with. As humans, it's proven out. It's aesthetically pleasing to see something over animate in this manner. You really notice it with scale. Scale adds a lot of like pop to it. So check this out. I'll do the E and the P. And I'm going to do scale this time. So I'll grab the E and the P, S for scale. I'll have them backwards animate. So I'll click my keyframe. I'll move them out a little bit. I'm going to have them both start at 0. So right now, here's what it looks like. It grows, and then it hits its 100% and stops. Now let's do something a little bit more dynamic with, say, the E. So right before it gets to 100%, I'm going to grow it to, say, 105. Now take a look at the difference. I'll do 110. It's not going to look great, but you'll be able to see it a bit better. You see the difference? We'll do one versus the other. Here's the P. Right? Just goes there. Doesn't do anything. Now take a look at the E. See how subtle that is? It's not much. It's not like over the top in your face, but that little extra going a bit over and then hugging back, pulling back to its natural spot just looks so much more believable. And it's easy to do. So as you do your animations, and this does not just pertain to keyframing After Effects, I'm really talking about drawing here. Over animate things. Some of the best animations will implore uber exaggerated movements. You know, think about like the Looney Tunes stuff, the Bugs Bunny, the old Hanna-Barbera, stuff like that. That stuff is zany. I mean, it is just so far over the top and it works. Like that type of over exaggerated movement reads really well. That's why sometimes when things are drawn to a T and like, you know, I'm not bagging on rotoscoping. I like rotoscoping, but if it's so natural and it looks just 100% human, it's almost like the uncanny valley a bit where it's like, I don't know, like they're using this tool that should be used to make things more exaggerated and they're not doing it. They're restraining themselves. And it doesn't feel like you're getting a lot of mileage out of your drawings when you do that. So if you're going to show someone smile, smile it up. Eyes big, big blinks, right? Head turns, dramatic head turns, like really kind of extend it out. It might sound silly and it's not going to work for everything, but you'd be surprised what a little bit of over animating will do to the entire sequence. It'll look that much better. So that's my shtick on over animation. Like I said, it's proven. It's not just, hey, do it because I do it. It's do it because this is what the pros do. Now, I'll show you one last thing and then we can take a break. So far, everything's working okay. Looks all right. But it would be nice if After Effects could lend a little bit more realism to this. If I was to throw a ball by you, you're not just going to see a series of the ball. If I throw it fast enough, it should kind of blur out. We talked about persistence of vision, right? Our eyes can't keep up with that ball traveling at a really fast distance. You've all seen photos of a cheetah running. They're blurry, or a race car going, or a bat, or anything fast that's moving. Unless there's an incredibly fast shutter on it to capture like freeze time, it's blurry, it's smeary. It would be nice if After Effects could do that for us, and it can. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply motion blur to this. Now, if you're just doing static drawings, this won't do anything to it. But if you've got positional keyframes, scale keyframes, rotation keyframes, you'll get some mileage out of this. And the faster that it moves from point A to point Z, the more the blur will look more blurry. So to do this little ball, it's called a motion blur. It looks like 3 little balls in sequence. What you need to do is whatever layer you want motion blur applied to. So I want the E, click on motion blur, and I want the Y, click on motion blur. Make sure that motion blur is enabled in your switches. If it's not, you need to click on it up here as well. And you can already see it on the Y. It's starting to blur out. So let's do that one more time. We'll do a kind of hard to see. Let's go back to here's my star. It looks kind of weird. It's almost kind of giving me a moire pattern. But if I was to put motion blur on this, now take a look. Actually, I'll do this. I'll duplicate this. I will do, let's do 3 revolutions. Okay. Move this one over here. So the one on the right will have the motion blur. The one on the left doesn't. And you tell me which one looks better. It's pretty obvious. One looks realistic, one does not. And that's courtesy of motion blur. Now you can set different motion blur. You can set different motion blur parameters based off of whatever camera you're using. By default, you should be just fine if this is pertaining to you at all. But if you're wondering, well, how can I achieve that 16 millimeter look? You can do it, but that's for a different class. All right, we took care of the most important thing and a few other things that I thought were worth mentioning. Does anybody have any questions before we take a 10-minute break? I'll stop sharing. I'll get the chat pod out here, see if I missed anything.